They seem to be on different pages when you talk about the cadence of the offense. You obviously played in the NFL. You were on the offense. You understand cadence. Rodgers says the team needs to be sharper. Robert says, maybe whatever. What is your take on that? Because you were there. You were on that offense. What does cadence do?
Cadence gets guys in rhythm, and when you get guys in rhythm, it starts to become easy. Guys start to buy into what you're doing. The rhythm allows things to happen. I think this stems from in the summer. I know Aaron had to do something overseas. Saleh made a comment about it, and it seems like they haven't been on rhythm since then. And now here they are trying to play catch up. And what is week 4 of the NFL season? Got to get these guys in some sense of cadence. It doesn't have anything to do with Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers. It has everything to do with Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett, and that offense. They have to find some rhythm because it's not going to get easier. The team that they're playing next week is
How do you find the rhythm, though, Braylon? How do you find that? Is it through accountability? Is it through coaching? Is it through what's it through?
I think sometimes you got to settle things down. You have to make things a little bit more simpler. I remember when I was playing with the Jets and Schottenheimer in year 2, we had a lot going on. We had Dustin Keller. We brought in LaDainian Tomlinson. We brought in Santonio Holmes. You had myself. It took us a second. And then remember, Santonio started in game 4. So it took us a second to get going rhythmic-wise. I think you just dumb things down. I think you have a conversation. I think you get it out the way. Just offensive guys. And you sit down, hey, what do we want to be? Who are we going to be? And allow Aaron to kind of lead that meeting. But allow guys to talk. Allow guys to say, hey, this is what I saw coming into the season. This is what I think we can be. Get it out of the way because there's clearly some things going on offense, and people have things to say. Let them get them out now before you get into week 9, week 10, when things are super critical. Right now is a great time to have that meeting, and I'm telling you, you got to get back to the run game. The running game is where it stems. You got 2 monsters, and you actually, like you said, Connor, you have an offensive line now that can protect. That's no longer the excuse. They got to run the ball, but they got to get on the same page.
And Connor, I know you asked Coach after the game, what is about these false starts? What is it about that? And then you also and he said, it's just we got to make it a little simpler. And then you also asked Aaron the question. Aaron said it has to be accountability. Is the head coach and the quarterback on 2 separate pages? Are there issues between the two?
It's tough to say because I think that it was probably a little bit of an example of Robert just talking a little too much. I mean, he said more than what he should have. It was almost like he was brainstorming in that moment and going through over his head of what went wrong in the game, what can possibly cause things to go wrong in the game. But the buzzwords that he had said, Jeane, if he just came out and said, look, we had an issue with the cadence. It wasn't an issue before. We got to figure that out and we're going to move forward. Boom. There is no headline on that. There's no questions on that. It's you go back to Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, Robert said there was some issue with the cadence. Why do you think there was an issue with the cadence today? It was when Saleh volunteered the information of, quote, maybe we're not good enough regarding the cadence yet. Maybe we're not ready yet. That immediately makes you say, okay, well, they're going to change something. And if you're not ready for something, and Braylon can attest to this having played in the league, if you're not ready for it, you're not going to keep doing it. You're going to practice it and then eventually bring it back, but you're going to dial it back some. You're going to bring it in some, reel it in some, work on the basics, and then you can eventually go to the more advanced stuff. When he says that, it almost feels like too much of an excuse. And that's been an epidemic with the Jets right now, is just incessant excuse-making when this team should not be making the excuses if they're as good as they believe they are. When you then go to Rodgers and say, hey, look, Saleh, and again, I didn't say Saleh's exact words. If I had gone and said literally exactly what Robert Saleh said, I believe Aaron Rodgers' response is probably even more critical than what he actually said. But when Rodgers then says, like, hey, if you're not really ready for it, Saleh's basically saying he's going to dial it back some. And he's like, or, yeah, you can do that, or you don't take out a major part of our game plan. You just hold players accountable. I think there is maybe some divide. I don't know if it's going to run a risk of splintering or fracturing this team. I don't know. Robert's going to say all the right things. Aaron's going to say all the right things in the coming weeks. What the Jets are eventually going to have to do, Jeane, is just win games. And it doesn't matter if Rodgers and Saleh are best friends. It doesn't matter if they're playing golf with each other on the weekends. They just need to come together and find a way to win games. And I think this all just stems down right now to a group of players who are sick of losing, who are ready to be a really good team. And maybe there are questions of, are we being put in the best position to have success? And the only way to know you're being put in the best position to have success is to actually win football games. And when you have a loss like this to a team that you should not lose to 100 out of 100 times, it's gonna call into question. It's gonna bring up some ugly stuff like this.